Let's talk about Purdue and Alabama, though. Look, don't need to dig too deep to understand that this is obviously the headline game on tonight's slate, guys. Number 2 versus number 8, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Purdue drops from number 1 to number 2 in the rankings. We talked about this yesterday. They only beat Oakland last time out by 10. That was kind of an alarm, I guess, set off some alarm bells for the pollsters. And lo and behold, that loss, or that win, pardon me, I think for some it felt like a loss, but that win now looks even worse than it did at the time now, right, guys? Because a game we talked about yesterday, Oakland and Houston. What does Houston do to Oakland last night? Well, they won by 33 points. And yes, another first half cash for Kelvin Sampson. Truth be told, Trick, I actually think relative to where these two teams, Purdue and Alabama, are ranked right now in the top 25 versus where they are in my power rankings, I'll call them both slightly overrated, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you guys can chime in on that if you want to, but I'm a little concerned with the Purdue defense. You crack open the box score of that Oakland game. Purdue allows 1.1 points per possession, 52% on 2-point attempts. That's not good when you're getting ready to face a team like Alabama, who just put up 102 against St. John's. And they did that, Rob and Trig, only shooting 11 of 35 from 3. What? Imagine how many points the Crimson Tide would have put up if they were shooting well from distance. Now, that's kind of always been a thing. They always get theirs, even when they're not shooting from 3. Even though it's a home game against the number 2 team in the country, I'll say that, is there a potential for a little bit of a letdown for the Crimson Tide here? I mean, that's not an easy game they just had against St. John's. I mean, it was an impressive performance, but going St. John's to Purdue, this is a very tough early scheduling spot. We've seen the market move in Alabama's direction. I think the key is going to be whether or not Purdue can slow the pace down, right? It's very hard to do on the road, again, especially against a team like Alabama. But at 175.5, is this total getting a little bit too high? I think it might be.
Rob, before I bring you in to break this one down, I want to point out, I do think we see the season debut of Trey Kaufman-Renn here for Purdue. He had a great game against Alabama last year in a game that Purdue kind of dominated them, if I remember correctly. Ended up winning by like 10 or so. That was so the one of the biggest early season tilts last year, Rob, was at Bama at Purdue. Purdue kind of dominated that game. I think Trey Kaufman-Renn went for like 25. So that's obviously a big deal. And as far as I'm hearing, it looks like he's going to play tonight. Does that entice you to punch back at the market at all, though, is the question?
Well, it's huge. It's definitely huge. And then the question you ask yourself is, my answer to this would probably be the former rather than the latter. But the question would be, does he come in and fit right in, or does it take him a game or two to fit right back in? Trey Kaufman-Renn's a guy who's been there, done that, played this team. As you mentioned, Adam, 26 points last year against them when they played in Mackey. So I would think he does fit right in with them, and they need him. Let's face it, without him, I don't think they're beating Alabama. But with him, it's a different story maybe. Brian, I'm sure you and Nate Oates could have a little discussion on whether or not Alabama is underrated. Direct quotes from Nate Oates, which would tell you that he's ready for this game. Nate Oates says, people are not holding his club in the correct level of esteem. Felt like when they opened the season ranked 15th, slap in the face, went and beat St. John's, still thinks they're underrated. On the other side of that coin is Purdue, who feels like against Oakland, they didn't exert themselves defensively. Again, you get into, here's Fletcher Lawyer real quick, and then I'll get into a little diatribe here, but Fletcher Lawyer, the end of the quote, it starts with the defensive end. We have to be better on defense, credit to Oakland. They played a great game, blah, 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 blah. And it leads me back to what I said yesterday about Shaka Smart and his comments on we have to be better defensively. Everybody says this. Does it always apply? Last night, of course, my bankroll will show you that it did apply because I went against the quote and UALR scored 49 points in that game. But I think the biggest point here, guys, is for me, number one, the change of venue. Listen, the backcourts are what they are. It's a stalemate. Both. It really boils down to the front court, and as you mentioned, Brian, pace of game. Last year, it was slowed down a little bit, and they totaled 165. Is 165 a slow game? 87, 78? Probably not. So can they get 10 more here in Tuscaloosa? Probably so. They're going to force you. You don't beat Alabama by not scoring what Purdue scored last year, 85 plus. You're just not going to win a game unless you get to 85 against them. They're going to put up enough shots. They're going to score enough points, et cetera, et cetera. I do think it boils down somewhat to the front court, and I think it boils down to three-point shooting. Alabama's just got more weapons than Purdue does from the three-point line. Fletcher Lawyer's off to a great start. And Alabama's the only team. Well, if Trey Kaufman-Renn plays, I guess they won't have a freshman on the floor to start the game, right? Kaufman-Renn would probably take that spot. So I think in summary here that the move toward Alabama, I feel it's probably correct. And I'm going to side with Brian on something that you said where Purdue's defensive numbers might look great so far, but I don't know how great they are, to tell you the truth. And this is going to be a test like they haven't faced all season long. Of course, they saw them last year. They saw Mark Sears on this team last year, a little bit different, right? Mm-hmm. But Alabama is Alabama, and I trust in Nate Oates' should I call it anger for where they're placed right now or how they're looked at nationally. Mm-hmm. So I think Alabama probably wins. And, 71.5 is a lot better than 174.5 or 175 if you're playing over. I think probably I'd look toward Bama. And if Kaufman-Renn plays, maybe that's the reason for the total movement up, guys, because he does provide offensive point production. I'll still have to look at that, but I think I'm going to side with Alabama here, minus 3.5.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add here, so I'll just say a couple things in closing. One, Kaufman-Renn had a real, again, I said it already, but he had a really good offensive game against this team last year. So, definitely think that there might be some correlation to him likely playing and the over moving up. Not surprised at all. It looks like there's some buyback on Purdue. 3.5 continues to get hit, but that doesn't surprise me at all. That's just like probably board cleaners taking like key numbers right there. I don't think you can really take anything from that. This is a huge game. There's going to be conviction on both sides of this matchup. So again, it's really more like, trying to get the best number with the side that you like. For me, yeah, coming off the St. John's game is not the best spot for Alabama. But you've got Purdue having to go to Tuscaloosa. We saw Bama go into West Lafayette last year and lose an early season game. So it's like a likely pass for me. Alabama still has really, really good guards that can score. So I don't really know if I want to step in front of them. So I will step to the side, if you will, avoid this one and go to a different game. But go ahead, both of you.
I was just gonna tell Rob, I've actually had a conversation with Nate Oates before.
Nice.
He didn't want to have it. This was at the MAC semifinals 10-ish years ago.
When he was a rocket launcher.
When he was still from Buffalo. Yeah, and I yelled out, Coach Oates, don't worry about number 45 on Saturday for Kent State. And this lady next to me started laughing very hard. I was like, oh, I still got it, huh? Of course, Buffalo went to the NCAA tournament that year. The next weekend, I saw that same lady on television. It was Nate Oates' wife. She really had, she was laughing up for the 2 hours. My comedy routine worked on Mrs. Oates, I'll say that. But Nate had a little smirk on his face, too, when I told him not to worry about number 45 on Kent State. But, yeah, so Nate and I have chatted. It was a one-way conversation, but a conversation nonetheless.
The nature of Brian Power conversations, one-way conversations.
Yes.
Real quick, Adam, I'm going to point out in further thought on that game and how to go about it. And we just saw the number move again, at least the one I'm looking at, which is the first half number. I feel like if you want to play Alabama in this game, you probably want to play first half. Minus 1.5 first half. I'd expect Alabama to come out at home in this environment to come out pretty quick here. Not that Purdue's not veteran enough with their guards to withstand this venue, but I think they could get to them early, and then Purdue makes adjustments in second half rallies. Alabama's very good at giving up leads and very good at giving up points. So for me, for those who are interested in this game, I think my way to go would be here would be Alabama -1.5, which just we saw the twos cleared out just now down to 1.5.
Yeah. Because it's early in the year, because it's early, do we, they just beat St. John's, obviously. Is that less of a factor to you guys that you're coming off one big game and have another, rather than if this, if it was the second of back-to-back big games, and in obviously it would be conference games once we get to January and February. But does the fact they're coming off such an impressive performance against St. John's at a, what was basically a road game, does that bother you guys on the Alabama side?
Not really, because they're coming home. Go ahead, Rob.
I'll just make a quick point about that, Brian. Glad you brought it up, because I consider Rick Pitino's St. John's team a very good defensive team. Mm-hmm. Their style, the way they get after it, and that's the kind of team that Alabama that likes to run. St. John's likes to run back, and St. John's likes to get up on you man-to-man. And they scored 103 on that team. Pitino's quotes after that game were very, very they were directed at his defense. Let's put it that way. Yeah. He didn't like what he saw. But is that more a product of this Alabama offense? Phylon looked great in that game. He's looked great in the first two. And he had a big game here last year against this team in Mackey. So I think that it depends how you judge that 103 performance against St. John's. I would say that Alabama just shredded a really, really good defense for 103, and now they're going to come home, and they did it on the road.
All right, let's okay. Someone, I gotta call this out. Someone said, "Oh, the show went over yesterday." I don't Mississippi Valley State covered, Binghamton covered. I think I gave out a 3%er on Cal Poly that covered. Certainly didn't go over. We certainly did not hit the parlay, but guess what? We are even without a parlay win on the week, we're still plus like 12.33 units. I have it written down here, and the point is, like, just this show is like we're just giving out thoughts. It's really on you to make the decision. If you want our picks, though, exactly what we're going to play, very, very simple to get them. You head over to wagertalk.com, and we've got great specials up. Tell them about the specials, Brian Power.
Well, there's multiple ways to get on board. How about the full court pass, 3 days for $49, that you can do this for any of the three of us, Rob, Adam, or myself. Your favorite handicapper, you get 3 days of basketball picks for $49. It's very similar to the Weekend Warrior Pass in football. It covers not just college, but NBA as well. So check that out. And if you want to lock in with any of us for a longer stretch, a little bit longer, and get every sport, football, basketball, whatever else, 10 days for $99 right now. I think that's the best deal we've got going right now at the site. 10 days for $99, all sports. Again, that's on all three of our pages as I speak.